Fall is all about cozy comforts, but when you're prioritizing your health, it's easy to feel like you're missing out. With Hero Bread, you can enjoy all your fall favorites because they're made with Hero Bread sliced bread loaves, tortillas, bagels, dinner rolls, and more. Try their all-new Hero Noodles with 12 grams of protein and just 80 calories. So skip replacing every carb with cauliflower and indulge in your breakfast, lunch, and dinner time favorites while still hitting your goals. From breakfast bagels and meal prepped enchiladas to mouth-watering burgers and cheesy noodles. You won't believe Hero Bread's options have 0 to 5 grams net carbs and are high fiber from the taste and texture. They've even got small batch drops of indulgent favorites like the popular Hero Croissant. And right now, Hero Bread is offering 10% off your order. Go to hero.co and use code FALL25 at checkout. That's fall25 at hero.co. All figures are per serving of Hero Bread. Contains 2 to 18 grams of fat per serving. See the product nutrition panels on hero.co for more information.
As a small business owner, have you ever felt overwhelmed by the pressure of choosing the right hire or leading a team? Or have you ever found yourself tolerating a bad hire because you fear trying and failing again as you repeat the hiring process? If so, you're not alone, and you are in the right place. Welcome to the Growing Your Team podcast. The Growing Your Team podcast teaches business owners like you to expand your unique business by teaching you to master the hiring and team management process. Hiring and managing a team does not have to be a challenge. You just have to learn to do it right. And the Growing Your Team podcast teaches you how to become a confident leader who hires right every single time. Now, let's jump into the show where each episode you will learn tips on how to identify what type of help you need on your team, how to source amazing candidates, how to conduct interviews that lead you to your ideal team member, how to onboard successfully, and how to lead every person in your business so you have a team of rock stars who you are happy to pay every single paycheck. So let's jump in and teach you how to hire like a pro. Hello, Jamie Van Kuyk here, and welcome back to the Growing Your Team podcast. Today, I want to talk about a question that I have been getting a lot lately. And that question is, how do you know it's the right time for you to switch from having contractors to having employees? And so let's dive into this, because there are some things in your business that it makes sense to hire at a contractor level at first and then switch to an employee level later. And I want to make sure that you have the information so you're making the right decisions at the right time. But one of the things I want to start off with is if you're ever really confused on whether someone should be an employee or a contractor, for some positions it's really clear, and other positions there's a lot of gray areas, make sure you're speaking to an HR rep or an employment lawyer or someone that can really help you make the right decision if your position's in that gray area. So before we jump into identifying if it's the right time, let's just quickly define the difference between employees or contractors. Because sometimes the thing that makes it a sign that you should switch to employees from contractors is you're recognizing that the one type of team member is no longer what you need, and you're really wanting the other type of team member. So to start, a contractor is a company, even if it's a company of one, that you are hiring to do work for you. So if you think about it, you are a contractor typically for your clients. Your clients are hiring you to do work for them. So think about that relationship you have between you and your clients. They are hiring you to complete work. Depending on your business, that might be long-term ongoing work, or it might be a one-off project. But you are not a part of their company if you work with other businesses. You are an independent company that is doing work for them. Or if you work with the end consumer, then end consumer is hiring you. You're not all of a sudden, they're not creating a company to hire you for. You are an independent business that is doing work for them. So when you hire contractors or freelancers, you are hiring an independent business to do work for you. When you hire an employee, that person becomes a part of your organization, right? So it's not something independent of your organization when it comes to work. They are a part of your organization, which gives you more control. So if you've ever been an employee for someone else, you know how that relationship differs from a relationship that you have of a client. All right. So now that we have that high level overview of really what those differences are, let's talk about switching from contractors to employees. One of the things that I will say is that there's some positions you will hire for that will always have to be employee positions. There are other positions that you will hire for that it really always makes sense for it to be a contractor. You could be a 5,000 employee organization, and there's some things that go on in businesses that size that they're going to hire contractors for. It never makes sense for them to switch that role to an employee. And then there are other roles where it will start as a contractor and then switch to an employee. So that is what we're talking about for the rest of today, those roles where it made sense to have it as a contractor at first to hire that outside company to do work for you. And now you're considering, should this position become an employee position? So the first thing that we're going to look at is control. So as we talked about, a contractor is an outside organization. When you go to the IRS definitions and everything, if it's a contractor relationship, the contractor has a certain level and typically more control over the relationship than you who is hiring that contractor, meaning they have control over how they run their own business and all those things and everything. So there could be a point where that's okay. You don't want to have that control, but now you're saying, I really want to have more control. That can control look like a few different things. One, it could be hours and that when and where they work. So maybe at first you're like, okay, this work just needs to get done. I don't care if this person works from home or works random hours throughout the week as long as they meet the deadline. But now you're like, I really would like someone who is in my office working the same hours as myself. So that's one, the control portion of it. The other part of the control portion is process. With the contractor, you are hiring them to complete an outcome. Technically, what tools they use and processes they follow to achieve that outcome is up to that contractor. If you want more control over the process and tools and everything that it takes to get to that outcome, then that's a time for an employee. So if you think about it, when it comes to control, a contractor can work when they want, where they want, and how they want, as long as they achieve the deadline and goals that you put forth. So it's saying, I am hiring you to complete this for me by this date. Okay, that person does it, great. An employee, you have a little bit more of that control over the when, where, and how something is done to achieve that goal. So once again, if you want more control over the relationship, it is definitely time to hire an employee versus a contractor. The other thing to think about when it comes to control is their ability to work elsewhere. A contractor is in control over really who they work with. So it's harder for you to tell a contractor that they can't work with someone else in your industry. It's hard to tell them, no, you can't take on that other client. So if you really want to have someone that is going to be 100% dedicated to your business, you need an employee. So the other thing that I want to talk about when it comes to, is it time to switch from a contractor to an employee, is how much time you need from the person. So as I just talked about, a contractor technically has the freedom to go and work with other people. This isn't just the freedom to be able to, is according to the IRS, they have to have the ability to take on other clients. Meaning, you cannot take all of their time, or what you're taking all of their time for has to have a clear end date, so that way they know when they need to start lining up their next client. So if you're having someone work on a special project, and for that special project, you need them 40 hours a week, so technically full-time hours, but that project is going to be July through September, that is allowed as a contractor, because come September, that contractor knows that they are done with you unless you offer them an extension, and they need to start preparing so they can have another client. If it's not full-time, then let's say you want them 20 hours a week, they then have 20 additional hours per week that they can go get another client. So their ability to know when they need another client is part of what makes it a contractor relationship. So unless you are time bound, so once again, it's a project for just a specific time, and you need someone full-time, it's an employee position. One way companies with certain positions do get around that with having someone as a contractor when they need someone full-time is typically they go through a temp agency or another type of company where technically the person that is on their projects and doing the work is contracted through another organization, and that person is an employee of that other organization. So that's how sometimes you'll hear people that are full-time and are contractors with certain organizations is typically they're an employee elsewhere. So you have to think, if you want someone to be giving you full-time hours, if you want to control the when, where, and how they work, it is typically an employee. So if you've reached that point where it's no longer feeling like I'm handing off this project, it needs to be an employee. So contractors, think of them as doing projects, supporting you with smaller things. But once it's those big things that you really need to control a lot of when, where, and how they work, that is the time that you should start switching to employees. Once again, there are some positions in your organization that based on how those positions are laid out, you absolutely need an employee from your very first hire. So for example, you run a brick and mortar location and you're going to have a front desk receptionist. That person has to be there to answer phones at a certain time, to greet customers. They need to be working on your location. You probably have processes that you want them to follow to file mail or sort email as they come in or whatever it is. That person's going to be an employee from the start. You have other positions that can probably forever be contractors. So for example, for the services you offer your clients, there is this one-off thing that you add to your packages when somebody needs it, and it's not all the time that that's going on. It's maybe once or twice a month that you're going to need this expertise, and you hire a contractor to come in and provide that expertise at that time, but it's not something you need all the time in your business. Or maybe you need a cleaning staff to come clean your office, to clean your location, but they're only coming in once a week. They can set the schedule of when they come in and so forth, that you never really need a full-time cleaner on your staff. Those are positions that can always be contractors. But there are those positions that might make sense for someone to start off as a contractor and then switch the position to an employee. Remember that just because you switch the position to an employee, it does not mean the same person is going to stay with you, because the contractor is running their own business. You might be one of their many clients, and they might prefer to keep running their own business instead of becoming an employee of yours. So for a position that might start off as a contractor, but then switch over to an employee, could be your bookkeeper. We talk a lot about bookkeeping and finances on this podcast, and you might start off with a part-time bookkeeping needs. Very small hours per month. You have a specialist that's doing that. You have your specialist accountant. You have your specialist CFO that are helping you with all those different levels. Your business continues to grow. Your bookkeeping needs pretty much become a full-time position at 40 hours per week. Then that's that thing where you say, maybe I need someone on staff for my bookkeeping versus an outside contracted bookkeeper. So I hope that gives you a little bit of information on when you should be switching positions over to an employee that you currently have labeled as a contractor. And I know sometimes this can be confusing. I know sometimes you look at certain positions, you're like, I don't know what I should do. You look at other businesses, and other businesses are doing something different than what you feel is right for your business. So you have to do what's right for your business, and you also have to treat a position legally right for the classification. So if you're ever confused, as I started off with this episode, make sure you're working with a professional that can help you truly understand the differences between an employee and contractor so you stay on the right side of the classification. Because while you're probably not going to get in too much trouble of treating someone classified like an employee as a contractor, treating someone that is classified as a contractor as an employee can get you into significant financial trouble with the IRS. So you definitely do not want to do that. All right, so that wraps up today's episode. Once again, if you have any questions, just send me an email, reach out to me, connect to me on Instagram, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. And that wraps up this episode of the Growing Your Team podcast. But before we go, are you ready to gain the confidence to hire like a pro, but need to find a way to do so that fits your limited time and doesn't stretch your budget beyond its capacity? Let's face it, hiring has a lot of complexities. And if you don't know what you're doing at each step, you increase your chances of hiring the wrong person and then having to spend both time and money to rehire. So it's something that you want to do well the first time. But if you're like many small businesses that are hiring their very first contractors and employees, you most likely don't have thousands of dollars to spend on high-level hiring consultant services or full-service recruiting. But you still need help. You still need guidance. You still need the support to hire well. That is exactly what the Micro Hiring Consulting Program is for. This is a consulting program designed to support you through the process of hiring and onboarding contractors and part-time and full-time employees in a manner that fits your schedule and your budget. It's a month-to-month consulting program that gives you access to one-on-one calls, office hours, live training, and unlimited email support so you have expert eyes on every job post, interview question, onboarding plan, or anything that you create so that way you know it will work for you and be successful in the process of finding your ideal candidate. To learn more about this consulting opportunity and how you can get hiring support that fits your time and your budget, head on over to growingyourteam.com/micro. Once again, go to growingyourteam.com/micro to learn more about this consulting program that's going to help guide you to successful hires every time.